Hi, I'm the PC police. I use fear, intimidation, and abuse to get you to betray your intelligence. If you love and accept people for being who they are, but you're using your intelligence at the same time, I'll still convince you you're being hateful. Because I know about you better than you know about you. Because look how stable I am. If your intelligence tells you something that I don't like, then I'll label you some kind of phobic to shame your intelligence so you won't use it anymore. Then you're controllable. That way, when you see something that's wrong, instead of thinking it's wrong, you'll think you're wrong. Then you'll accept the wrong thing as the right thing because you're making yourself wrong. And I'm helping you do it. Then you'll still be intelligent, but you won't be accessing your intelligence because I made you ashamed of it when I called you phobic. And you believed me. And I did this because I'm kind, and I'm teaching you to be kind.
Wow, the PC police are oddly descriptive, to say the least. Welcome back, beautiful and amazing human beings. This is Luke Radowski of wearechange.org. A lot of extremely important topics to get into right now that are developing and breaking right now, specifically surrounding the 25th Amendment and the now extended censorship of the U.S. President Donald Trump. But before we get into that, the short clip that we just played before you is an excerpt of a longer clip from the YouTuber Awaken with JP. His channel will be down in the description. And when you listen to his satirical take on the PC police, a lot of things actually starts to make sense. Now, I definitely think it's fair to say that after yesterday's events, there's definitely going to be a lot more policing, to say the least, as of course there will be a crackdown on individuals from a government that has a majority in the House, Senate, and of course the executive office in the United States. I think it's only fair to say that that is coming. And with that, in my opinion, there's going to be a lot of threats for individual liberty. Now, again, that's just my own personal opinion, but yeah, that's the situation that we're in. But hey, at least Bitcoin is doing pretty well. But other than that, not much else is. As politically, things are getting pretty insane, with even some GOP lawmakers calling to invoke the 25th Amendment in order to remove Donald Trump from the U.S. presidency. This call is, of course, echoed by many top Democrats in the government, even though Donald Trump just has a few more days left in office, days that he will also go without Facebook, as Mark Zuckerberg just personally announced that the U.S. president is indefinitely banned from using Facebook for at least the next 13 days when he is still in office and still president-elect. And Mark Zuckerberg goes on and says that this ban may even last longer than the next 2 weeks. And of course, a lot of people have some legitimate concerns about these actions, as of course they will only escalate from here. And in my opinion, they will definitely get more out of hand than they already are, since of course we've been warning you about this for years now. Not to toot my own horn here, I just won't. But as the crackdown continues, don't forget to follow us on our email list. You could just go to wearechange.org, and in the right-hand corner, you could just put in your email. If, of course, you want to stay in touch with us one-on-one, personally, without anyone standing in the way. And this is one sure way to make sure we, as an independent media organization, are allowed to still continue our work no matter what. It is imperative right now that you put in your email on wearechange.org and sign up on our email list if you want to see more work from us in the upcoming days. Now, on top of all of this, we also have to mention that we're dealing with the situation that has tragically left people dead. As of course, there's video footage coming out of what looks like either a Secret Service agent or a police officer dressed in plain clothes open fire on a woman, killing her when she was inside of the Senate building. This also was happening as police officers were behind her, and not even discussing the merits here, but tactically, this was a very bad move. It definitely doesn't seem like anyone's life was under threat that needed this kind of defensive force. There's police officers behind the woman that could have also been shot and injured here. We're not going to show you the video. It is too graphic. It is too disturbing to show you. Some people are saying that this could have been Mike Pence's security team, but we don't know. At least there should be an investigation. We should understand some of the details surrounding what actually happened here, because a life life was lost. And sadly, some individuals are even going as far as to celebrate that fact, which shows you just how divided and just how hateful people could be because of our politics when it comes to someone losing their life. And that's pretty sad. Now, even though 4 people in total died from yesterday's events, 1 adult female that was shot, 3 medical deaths, 14 officers injured, we had hashtag white privilege trending and many news organizations and leftist figures talking about how some of the protesters were given special treatment. Again, when it comes to these kind of high-profile events, you could editorialize, you could edit, you could show you certain clips and edit out other ones to give you a particular narrative. This one, in my opinion, is just absolutely ridiculous, since, of course, 4 people died. Cop shot an unarmed person, and everyone that's usually outraged by a similar action is not, because of politics, which shows you many people don't have a lot of virtues in our political system, in our political lexicon, and choose power over morality. Also, Washington Post journalists were arrested, which again is something ridiculous and needs to be called out. And to me, these issues are important, and even though the conversation is hard, I do believe it still needs to be had, and hopefully we could still have it on this platform without being censored. Again, wearechange.org, right-hand corner, put it in your email, the best sure way to keep us up and running. As of course, restrictions on speech are being implemented online, specifically with Twitter, Facebook, and YouTube, also announcing that if someone questions the integrity of the U.S. presidential election, that they also will be getting banned. Now, of course, we're not even doing that here on this platform, but it's important to note that such efforts have been made. And let's be honest here, with a lot of the big tech executives having a position of power in Joe Biden's cabinet and his administration, I think it's only fair to say that there's going to be more of an expansion of what people can and cannot say online. In my opinion, that is a very bad thing, and it will lead to more of a detrimental outcome than people understand. Now, that power of speech, of being able to discuss what actually happened, shouldn't be in the hands of a small number of individuals who, of course, are connected to special interests. Speech should be open and available to everyone if we want our society to prosper and to progress forward. Every time in recorded human history, when freedoms are limited, humanity usually digresses. Whenever there's more freedom, humanity progresses forward and moves in a direction that actually uplifts and helps people. That's why it's important to discuss and examine the events that happened yesterday, as of course there's a lot of disinformation, there's a lot of fake news, there's a lot of propaganda, there's also a lot of theories, people highlighting videos of allegedly police officers letting protesters in, and yes, there's videos of that, as well as videos like this that show thousands of protesters pushing against police officers who did not want to let them in. Both incidences are true, but again, with editorializing, if you just show a limited scope of view, people will make up their own decisions without seeing all of the evidence. Once you limit who has that speech, the editorializing will continue to an extent that will lead to bastardization and the abuse of power, which we talked about in yesterday's video with the guy using the price tagger in exchange for a thermometer, which shows you how people just abuse their little authority and power that they're given. Given the authority and power to speech is one of the most important ones, and that's why it's important to fight bad information, bad words with good words and good information. But right now, it's important to point out that many in the establishment are pointing towards a narrative that is absolutely false. They're pushing towards a narrative that these people who stormed the Senate were professional coup d'etat plotters and planners who wanted to commit the most horrible of all actions against our representatives. And in reality, as Michael Tracy points it out, that some people are just calling these people a dime a dozen hooligans and morons. Now, it is very fair to point out that the United States has a history throughout its existence at committing coups d'etats, specifically in Latin American countries and also other countries in the world. Some people estimate that the United States was responsible for 80 coups d'etats, according to some scholars. But if you compare the coups d'etats that the United States did in Latin America to, of course, this alleged coup d'etat. It's absolutely ridiculous to even call it a coup. As even comedian Dave Smith pointed out, yesterday was nothing short of a coup attempt. It had all the hallmark signs of a revolution: furries, selfies, no guns, and that it was exactly like the War of 1812, which of course CNN was openly fear-mongering about. I was watching CNN and they were using extremely strong, hyperbolic, sensational language, literally talking about the War of 1812, insurrection and terrorism, and I'm sorry, but individuals like this literally seem more lost than they do as professional overthrowers of government. To say yesterday's events were planned and organized by Donald Trump is a ridiculous statement and akin to very low IQ thinking. If this is the face of your coup d'etat, let me tell you, you don't have a coup d'etat. But of course, many in the establishment, in the mainstream media, in the Democratic Party will be milking this poor cow until the chickens come home, with even U.S. representatives like Chuck Schumer comparing yesterday's events to Pearl Harbor. Keith Olbermann literally compared yesterday's events to 9/11, and of course CNN was going on and on about how this was a terrorist attack by terrorists. Now, I'm sorry, when you have a bunch of people lose 4 people on their side, actually not do anything productive at all, but now create a huge backlash against them, I'm sorry, but this is not some kind of strategic attack that advances anything that's going to be favorable for any of these people. Now we just have an excuse for more of abuse of power, and that looks like what these politicians, especially in the Democratic Party that now have a majority in government, are going to be going after. And even other prominent left-wing thinkers like Glenn Greenwald called it out, calling it obscene and reckless to compare yesterday's events to events that have killed thousands of Americans. I'm sorry, that's disingenuous, but also malicious in my opinion, since of course this kind of hyperbolic language will continue the back and forth political conflict as our freedoms are going to be taken away. The New York Times didn't even wait to do this, as they just published 2 articles talking about how we need more censorship of online speech. It's also important to point out that these are many establishment figures, whether in the mainstream media or Democratic Party, that were calling riots, quote, peaceful. Chris Cuomo was literally telling his national viewing audience that protests are not supposed to be peaceful. Sally Cohen said people need to understand that American history is filled with violent protests. Ali Velshi of MSNBC characterized a protest as mostly peaceful and generally speaking not unruly when there was private buildings being burned down behind him. Now, of course, he is decrying yesterday's events. Of course, we can't forget Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, who justified violent BLM protests by saying protesting is meant to make people feel uncomfortable. The United States government literally supported and cheered on violent protests at the capital of Ukraine, and many violent events were either obfuscated, ignored, or excused during the summer of 2020. This is still a fact that doesn't justify anything, but this hypocrisy needs to be called out since it laid out the foundations from the events that we are still dealing from yesterday. And now these same people are foaming at the mouth, rolling, and demanding that people lose their rights because of the actions that they previously excused before. I'm sorry, but that's absolute bullcrap. And again, 2 wrongs don't make a right. An eye for an eye makes the world blind. That's what I've been saying for years, warning people that this was going to happen. I'm sorry. It's not even tooting my own horn here. It's frustration. It's frustration that you know something severe, something major is coming. And sadly, with the reaction from this, there's going to be another reaction. And the cycle continues and it spirals out of control. And it's one of the reasons why I haven't been opting into party politics on this YouTube channel and keep telling you to be responsible for yourself. Radical self-reliance. That's what I've been saying. Growing your own farm, growing your own food, making your own cryptocurrencies, becoming independent, voting with your dollars, voting with your clicks, and being aware and conscious of every decision you make, making sure you incentivize good things in this world and not the bad things. That's been my standard approach, and hopefully I still get to have this ability to speak it to you. One important thing that you can do to help me out is literally taking the mouse, double-clicking the link, going into your Messenger DMs and randomly scrolling, clicking it, sending it to a random person. Getting this information out there is key. It's critical. Even if it's not this video, share an article, share a meme I shared in there. Start the conversation. It is more critically important than ever. I wouldn't be here if it wasn't for you guys. This is why I love you guys. Stay tuned for more here on wearechange.org.